Welcome to Mo's Market Pulse. I'm your host, Sara Mokaram, founder of Mo Digital Solutions, where we help businesses hit their revenue goals and thrive. On this podcast, we talk with industry leaders about their business, market trends, growth strategies, and what's ahead. Today, I have JC Grubbs, founder and CEO of Made in Tandem. Thank you, JC, for joining me today.
Hello.
So when we look back at your journey from, co-founding your first ISP in college to now running Made in Tandem, what were some of the defining moments that really shaped how you think about building companies and teams?
I think the biggest thing would be that it generally just tends back towards people. So, over the last 15 plus years, we've seen lots of technical kind of revolutions. There's been, a move to microservices. There's been, the cloud. There's been, a number of things that have popped up as big solutions to problems that companies didn't know they had. And I think at the end of the day, it's really just comes down to people. Are you asking the right questions? Are you solving the right problem? Are you doing it in a way that's sustainable and maintainable? And even in this kind of AI boom right now, I think we're going to come back to that, which is just what's sustainable? What moves the needle predictably, positively, but isn't busting the envelope, right? Isn't something that's breaking the system. Predictability, I think, is the thing that I've learned more than anything is can you move from fast innovation into predictable movements?
And kind of backing up now a little bit for those who aren't familiar with Made in Tandem, give me your pitch here and how would you describe your company and who, would come to you?
Yeah. I like to say we are the wrench turners in the background that most people don't see. We don't build the flashy front end of things. We're interested in big data problems, big infrastructure problems, things that are foundational to a business's IT infrastructure. Traditionally, software is where we historically play, but there's lots of room there. So what I like to say is if you've never seen us, we've been successful because your experience was positive because all of the things underneath the surface worked exactly as they should. So yeah, we're a backend, consulting company. We like the hard, intractable problems that most enterprises face from time to time.
So you guys not only consult and work as a strategic partner, but then you also implement and work on the technical side as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah. We don't like to stay at the identification level. We want to get to the actual doing level. Okay. So we like to come alongside internal teams. Maybe, there have been challenges that typically keep getting put into the backlog, right? We'll get to that technical debt at some point, right? We like to come in at that point and say, yeah, let's clean that up. Let's lift the whole technical organization up. But we like to stay in the background. We're not the client facing, consumer facing side of things. We are the we shovel, we wrench, turn, we do the things that make the business move.
Got it. So let's zoom out for a moment and just talk about the market that you're competing in today. Software innovation services market, it can be crowded. So when you look at the competitive landscape, what trends or shifts are you seeing that are, reshaping how you position Made in Tandem?
AI is certainly, the big 800-pound gorilla out there. I think the thing that we are focusing on is not so much capturing that sort of AI world, but saying this is another kind of bubble, just like we've seen, right? And in the 2010s, it was all about microservices and distribution, and Amazon made a lot of noise. And back in the, early 2000s, late 90s, is, the internet, the just raw connection. We've seen these bubbles. I think AI is in that same mold. So right now, what I think we're focusing on is a little bit back to basics. What is the business driver for needing software? What can be automated? What makes sense? As we fold AI into those solutions, they become just another tool in the toolbox, as opposed to, we have to capture everything from the sort of AI perspective. It's really just back to business basics. Where are the revenue cycles? How do we add value? And if AI is part of that, great. But if it's not, also great.
So it's just an additional, like you said, tool that can be utilized if it benefits, who you're working with and what you're trying to implement. But if it doesn't, then you guys use other solutions. So if you had to name one market trend that excites you and one that frustrates you, what would it be and why?
I think the thing that frustrates me is kind of the same thing that's always frustrated me from very early in this business, which is the shiny object syndrome. Um, it's pretty rampant, and I think right now in this moment where AI, which is a big umbrella term for a lot of different things, but I think the idea of intelligent automation that is at the top level of business operations, I think that's a dream that is not gonna come to fruition in the near term, in my opinion. I think we're facing a bubble there. So it frustrates me when we talk to businesses who, their instinct, business operations folks' instinct is we can offload X thought work to AI. I think there are very, very clear use cases for AI, and it makes sense in those use cases, but as a broad panacea, it doesn't make sense. So that's kind of the thing that frustrates me, which is just what it's always been. Technology advances, companies think that they can capitalize on that and generally overshoot. Their expectations are way higher than reality. I think the thing that on the other side that makes me excited, this might be real controversial. So I'm gonna
I love it.
okay. All right, here we go. I think there is a generational shift that's happening in a lot of IT organizations where historically the drivers have been, how do we automate away the manual things that we've done in the past? I think we're past that. And I think in a lot of enterprise organizations, the old guard that has been focused on sustainability and maintenance of that historic IT infrastructure, I think is really kind of done. And so now I think what we're seeing is a lot of organizations that are post that, right? They're post the historical legacy, but they're in this state where what they've really done is just cleaned up a lot of the history, but they haven't really decided, okay, here's how we shift into forward momentum, right? Here's how we capitalize on new technology, new things. And I think right now in this space where AI is shaking things up and asking a lot of, it's forcing, executive teams to ask a lot of questions. I think that's a good thing. And I think we are kind of at the point in 2025 where we're not so much encumbered by the legacy weight of how we've always done it. So I think we're in a good springboard moment, actually, where we're going to figure out how these new technologies really amplify business. And I think a lot of businesses that have been, encumbered with their legacy are in a space where they're ready for that kind of thing. So that's my up and down.
Yeah, that's a great perspective on that. And I definitely agree with that as well. And I know you stated that there are some good use cases, for AI, but of course not across the board that, some people believe it will just come in and solve everything. Can you share your thoughts on where you really see AI as being beneficial and can really benefit maybe even clients that you work with?
Yeah. I think the challenge with AI, and when we talk to clients who are coming to us with a question around AI, it's such a broad category. So you've got, your LLMs over here, which are really good at language. They're really good at communicating and interpreting. But on the other end of the spectrum is where all the math lives, which is like, okay, we're really good at predicting, you know, in a lot of noise. The automation, the machine learning and automation side of AI, I think, is kind of forgotten a little bit. So it's a broad category. I think the maybe market shift is in that teams feel like there is an instinct towards maybe AI can solve this problem. Sometimes I think that is overshot. It's, hey, AI is going to solve all of our problems over here. At the end of the day, I think the right question to ask is like, back to the basics, back to the customer need. What are we trying to solve for the user? Let's not throw technology at it. Let's ask, what are we actually trying to solve? AI in its various forms, right? Whether it's on the LLM spectrum or on the machine learning and sort of data spectrum, like that might be part of the solution, but let's keep asking, what does the person actually want? What does the user actually need? And let's drive the solution from that. I think that is maybe the overarching theme of this whole thing is just, this is just another tool, but it always comes back to, are we solving a problem for a customer?
And of course, with any of this AI, right, it can't just solve the problem. It has to have good input and a good, what is the issue here and what is this AI even doing for us versus just, press of a button, it'll solve our issues or automate everything without really good setup or input as well. So I want to shift gears now and just talk about growth and marketing because, of course, even the best firms need to tell their story and, acquire clients as well. So your clients range, I believe, from startups to government agencies. How do you think about which types of clients or projects are the best fit for your team? And I guess along with that, how intentional have you been about pursuing those versus just letting different opportunities come to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a blend. We certainly have project profiles that make sense for our team. But we also historically have just reacted to what's coming at us. So I think it's a blend. Where we are right now, um, we focus on team members that are. I use an acronym for hiring called ERIC: empathy, resilience, improvisation, and kindness. And those are the kind of things that we look for. I think regardless of the technology, regardless of what you're trying to solve, if you're coming in as outside consultants, experts, however it's framed, we land inside an environment that is not your home territory. And those four things are historically, in my opinion, the things that like make us successful. Can you empathize with the people that are around you? Are you resilient to change, which is inevitable? You're going to get thrown into chaos. Can you improvise? Can you, on the fly, figure out what the next move is, even if it's not the ultimate move? Like, can you pivot? And kindness, just stop being a jerk, right? Like, kindness is like it. Why wouldn't you want to be that? So those things for us as consultants, like we keep coming back to it, regardless of the technology, regardless of the problem that we're trying to solve. Those core beliefs, those core motivations, we'll tackle the technology as it comes. But if you start there, you're going to solve the problem that actually is needed to be solved, right? It's not, do we have a bunch of JavaScript developers? Do we have, people that know C sharp? It's like, yeah, fine. All of that's kind of noise. Are you solving a human problem? Can we bring the right skills to the table for that?
I love that. So you tend to lead more with just the right project based on some of those core feelings and relationships with the people that you're working with to determine the success or whether this project is a good fit or not.
Yeah, I think if we don't have the skills, like if it's a project that we don't have core competency in from a technical perspective, yeah, that's just a clear no. The things that we tend to be really good at are those problems where, yeah, we've got the technical skills, we've checked those boxes, but it's really a business level problem, right? It's business, it's people, it's process, the technology is kind of the table stakes. Yeah, sure. We can slap some code in X language and we're going to do it really well. And we're going to consider architecture principles that reinforce maintainability. It's like, we're going to do all of the things that a technical team that's really high functioning is going to do. But the business, the people, that's the thing that really, I think, is interesting to us. And where we see success, I think when our team looks back and says, yeah, we really crushed X, Y, and Z, it's when we've been able to look at a client's business being transformed by the thing that we've done. It's not we built a great architecture for XYZ. It's about the outcomes.
Yeah, it's that impact that you can bring. So, marketing and growth in the services world can be tough. So, what's worked well for you in attracting new clients, and where do you feel you're still kind of searching for that right playbook?
Okay. You got two things there. Never underestimate your network of people. At the end of the day, I think for a lot of services businesses, especially, the having somebody on your executive team, whether it's your CEO or COO, whoever it is, somebody that is just really connected to the network, knows a lot of people, goes to a lot of events, is just connected to a lot of networks, is indispensable. And that's not something that you can really automate away. You just have to kind of cultivate that. In my experience, like that's just a personal thing you have to do. However, that will not scale a business. That has a limit, and you scale it up to a certain point and you hit that limit. So beyond that, it's really about, for us, it's about putting experts out there with ideas that are kind of a balance of challenge and solution, right? So like, you're doing it great, but you could be doing it better, right? So that's the theme that we like to put out in terms of content. And that's in line with what we have learned from our clients as we move forward. So I think it's a combination of that raw founder executive team kind of network and a content stream that is about what we've learned, but also how we are challenging our clients. That mix is kind of where we see the sweet spot. People come to us and they say, we talk about problems that aren't just technical. They're not just how do we fix X thing, but it's a process. It's more about how do we come alongside and help them improve the factory internally, right? That's building software.
Looking back, if you had to identify a growth strategy or something that you tried that didn't work as planned, or maybe even cost you more than it returned, what would it be? And, what did you learn from that experience other than to not do that?
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. For what we're selling, the email kind of marketing side of things is just a complete non-starter. It does not make any sense. Our sales are very high dollars, 7 figures plus multi-year high trust is required. So capturing attention at the very top of the funnel from an email campaign just doesn't work. You might get some conversations going, but the real conversations you want to have are just not there. This might be a little discouraging, but I think in our business, it really does come down to who you're getting in front of, the quality of the conversations that you're having, and the give and take of the network building that is required. So, you got to show up to a lot of things. You got to see the same person 4 or 5 times at various events. You've got to, add value to their lives by engaging in conversations where you're giving away free expertise, right? You've got to do that. There really isn't a digital substitute for those kinds of interactions. I think you can enhance those interactions with digital elements, right? So like, you meet somebody at a conference, you have a great conversation, you ask them about their business, they've, imparted their challenges, and, there's a good back and forth. They go to your website, they look at your case studies, they look at how you work, and that moves the needle forward. But at the end of the day, it was that interaction that really made the opportunity possible. And I think what I'd like to see in our space right now, where everything seems to be digital and virtual, and even this conversation, I don't really know where you are. You don't really know where I am at. You might know the city, but we are very disconnected. That doesn't. You don't say, I'm going to spend $3 million on some software without the connection. And I think that's something that, I don't know if we've lost it, but the narrative has shifted. So not sure if I went in a direction that maybe you weren't anticipating, but I think it ultimately comes down to people who, what, do you feel their problems? Do you resonate with their challenges in a way that says, yeah, we can help with that. We can fix that.
So I guess that kind of leads really well into my next question. And you may have answered this, but what's the hardest part, would you say, of scaling Made to Tandem today then? Is it that you feel those relationships really do need to start almost face to face, in person? And obviously that's not easy to scale, and it takes a significant amount of time to be going to events and networking in person. And especially in today's day and age, a lot is done digital, right? And even events, some people just aren't going to events anymore in person. So I don't know, maybe that is the hardest part, but I'd love to hear if any other thoughts you might have.
Yeah, I think kind of piggybacking on the general theme, like when we have inbound requests, I think that the thing that works for us the best is when we quickly pull those into real human conversations. There's no kind of automated path. You reach out to Made in Tandem, you want to talk about a software project, you're going to get, me, my COO, some of our engineers, people that are really curious and excited about the solution to your problem. So I think in some ways, customer service maybe is the thing that pops up, which is who can shine as a business, even in this crowded market where AI is making a lot of noise. You can really stand out by offering exceptional service. And so for us, that service is not just the act of writing software. It's being curious about a client's business, soup to nuts, right? It could be the problem they're asking about, but it could also be just generally their business. So I think for us, when a new opportunity comes across the transom, it's really about okay, who are the most excited people on our team about this particular thing? How do we get them engaged with the client as fast as possible?
So, really showing, even if it's digital or on a Zoom, being able to connect and show true interest and investment into what their issue is.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Being inquisitive, and that inquisitiveness is not just, pure curiosity. It's like, okay, how do we actually move the needle for this business? So the curiosity is about the client's ultimate goals, right? It's how do we move that forward? For us, I think it's very early when we meet new clients. It's about focusing on their needs and focusing on their outcomes that they're looking for, and putting people in their path that are excited and energetic about solving those problems.
And can you share a moment in the past year where you felt, this shouldn't be this hard? What was going on and how did it impact you and your team?
Oh, yeah. I think we pretty regularly encounter those types of moments where it's kind of clear what the next steps should be, but for whatever reason, could be organizational kind of weight, it could be the product roadmap, whatever it might be. We see, okay, this is the like next version of the promised land, right? We're going to get there. We can see it from here, can see how to get there, but there's all this stuff kind of in the way. So I think we regularly encounter clients that are on a journey, and that's something we like to recognize. It's not about tearing down the whole system to get to some future state. It's about what is the process that we move through to get to the outcomes that we want. So I think we're regularly in situations where, somebody on our team could say, yeah, hey, if that wasn't a problem, it would solve all this. And can we just do that? The answer is a lot of times no, because the organization just isn't ready for whatever change you're looking to make. So I think we tend to see things a few steps ahead, but we're also really practical in that if the organization isn't ready for it, they're not ready for it. And so our job is to paint the picture of here's the future state, here's where you could go, here are some things that we see as obstacles. And it's up to the organization to elect what parts of that they want to adopt to move forward and what parts they don't. And I'll also just be as, pragmatic and open as I can, which is like sometimes in that process, we also learn something. We also realize, oh, this might be a better route. So I think if you boil down where we really add a lot of value to clients, it's when our team bumps up against a client team trying to solve a problem that might be sort of pseudo clear for the client. We bring all of our experience from many different domains. It shines light on something in a way that the client hadn't quite seen before. And that's where the value gets delivered. So asking about, where we think we've misstepped or, failed, I would say what we try to do is do all of that in the open. So it's not seen as a failure, but it's seen as part of the process. If that makes
That's
sense.
great. Yep, that totally makes sense. And so I want to finish by looking forward over the next year. So, of course, founders or CEOs, they usually have big goals, big dreams that they're chasing. So, what's something that you're most determined to solve or achieve? I don't know if it's a specific metric or just overall over the next year. And what's been blocking you from getting there so far?
So I think and this is like, I talk to lots of other companies that are sisters of ours. We've got a good network of similar companies that we talk to. I think we're all kind of in this moment where the historical services that we've offered, which are very focused on software development for problems that you can't buy off the shelf. So core backend kind of systems that require a lot of coding experience, a lot of infrastructure, DevOps, lots of data, engineering, like those kinds of problems. Those still exist, but we're shifting into a world where the business abstractions on those have become more and more and more accessible to folks that are not necessarily technical. So we're in this kind of weird moment, right, where the technical challenges are actually like building, right? They're becoming more complex. If you're trying to implement, a big AI initiative at your company, right? Like there's a lot of technical challenges there. But it's also on the other side, the promise is, hey, anybody can just spin up an app and like solve a problem, right? So I think we're in this interesting space where those two things are both true. And this might be a not what your audience wants to hear, but like I actually just think we need to wait. I think we just need to take a breath and say, all right, let's just operate for the next 12, 18 months, see where things land, and then the opportunities will just naturally present themselves. Because I don't think that these two realities can exist very long. And so they're going to collapse. And what's going to come out of that is a lot of opportunity. Probably, I would say, more exponential than the kind of .com boom opportunity that happened in the early 2000s. It's just going to be insane, but we're not there yet. We're all kind of waiting for it, but it needs to land.
So, just to kind of summarize to make sure I'm understanding, are you thinking that maybe people will attempt, right, to create their own solutions, apps, things like that, because that's what it's kind of being sold as is like, you don't have to have this experience. You can do all this technical setup or whatnot. That might fail. And then people will need then more support and assistance to actually get things up and running, since it does still take knowledge and human expertise to successfully implement. It's not as easy as anyone off the street can do this.
I think the thing that is super positive about the sort of vibe coding kind of, I can just describe an app and get it out there. I think the thing that's very positive about that is the learning the instinct of try, right? Don't plan, just try and then learn. I think that's a really good instinct. The counterpoint to that, though, is once you have an idea, once you have a thing that I want to really build and take to the market, the vibe coding parts of that they just fall apart, right? Like you cannot scale that. You have to think about security and authorization and compliance and like all the things that the vibe coding world just can't do. And so I think what we're seeing is something that is issuing a lot of idea and a lot of promise and a lot of kind of forward vision, but it is not tethered to the reality of how to build those things into long-term sustainable businesses. So I think there's a lot of positive to it, but I think the backside is like companies like ours, companies like Made in Tandem, who, okay, here's a business process that you've kind of sort of cobbled together with, these tools. Like if you really want to operationalize this, if you really want to scale it, it requires real engineering. It requires real nuance, things that, yes, you can get a PR review of some code that you've checked in from Google, or GitHub Copilot, right? You can get some feedback there, but that's just on that. It's not on, hey, this whole ecosystem of a business that we're trying to affect. So yeah, I think it's a positive, but it creates a lot of opportunity.
That makes total sense. And so, for anyone who wants to connect with you or learn more about Made in Tandem, where is the best place?
Madeintandem.com is our website. I'm JC Grubbs on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. We don't participate in any other social media because it's all kinds of noise. So Yeah, that's how you can find us.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to Mo's Market Pulse. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a comment, and join us again to hear more insights from leaders coming up on future episodes. And again, thank you so much, JC, for joining us today.